Hello. This will be a simple tutorial explaining how to make the signboards I use on my models and the facial expressions. It's basically a tutorial of the basics of animations in Unity for Vrchat. So let's get started. First of all, just open Unity like you always do. Search for a model you want to use a signboard on. I use this model. I don't really use it in game because there's something wrong with the hair here on the back, and I don't want to fix it really. So I'll just use this model to explain. So for the signboards, you want to create here in the top under a hierarchy. You create a 3D object. I know it seems logical to go for plane when you think of a sign, but go for cube because plane doesn't have any value in the z-axis, so the game thinks it's like a 2D object, and it actually doesn't show in the game for all I know. Or you can't like see it yourself, so you can't check if it actually shows or not. So here you have a cube now. Just make the cube how you want it. Like if you want it very thin, you could make it like this, or if you want it a little bit different, like just make it as the shape and size you want. For the now to decide what's gonna be put on there, you just have to search for an image. So let me get to my image folder for Vrchat. I made this in Photoshop. It's a square with just my two social medias on it. You can use any picture you like. You can use transparency on certain things. I will show you in a second. So this one has no transparency, like it's all black with white text. So import it to your model, to your Unity, I mean. Actually, let me put this in textures instead of material. So now you have it here. Now you right click, create material, name it whatever you like, example board 1. Now you click on the material and you drag the texture you made or found on the internet in the albedo map. Here on the top, change the shader to cubed paradox. If you want to, you don't have to. Flatlit tune, or if you want it to be, if you are like in Void Club or MMD Club a lot, you can use unlit shadowed, so it's visible all the time, and you don't have to worry about lightning on your board. So let me get to here. Once you have the material, you can just drag it onto here, and you see this is how it came out. It's pretty neat. As you can see, like it will repeat on the other sides as well, but that's no worry. You only have to worry about this side because this side is the actual side you want to show to people. In the material itself, let's say you put an image on it, but it's like on top of its head like this, or it isn't readable. You can just adjust it with tilling and offset. Like if it doesn't show up on the right space, like let's say I want this more downwards, I can just put a value in here between 0 and 1, and it will replace it. So now to get this actually on your model, oh no, let me show you how to make a transparency one too. So I'm just gonna repeat the process here. Actually, I'm just gonna copy this up. I'm gonna so it's the same. You go to an image, but you actually search for an image that has transparency on it, like this. I cut out in Photoshop myself, like the black is actually not black, but it's transparency, but it can show on here. So I drag this in my project. I make a new material again. Call it transparency example. drag this in here, give it the cube shader treatment, and I put this on here. But see, now it's white, but it should be transparent. So you go to cutout, and with this you can choose how much to, like at what point he starts cutting out. Like this goes pretty fast because I cut it out in Photoshop already, but some things you can cut out without really photoshopping it, but it's like rather difficult. So I would suggest like photoshopping it and or with any other program and do the background away. So I can just tweak it a little. Let's say I want it like around this. So now I have a transparency board, so if I just show it, it will show this, but it isn't very pretty because it has this. But more normally a board isn't really transparent, so you don't really have to worry about that. So now to put the board on your model, you basically go to your model hierarchy and you choose where you want to put the board. I'm just gonna put it in the right arm for now. So you go to right wrist, and you just drag the cube into your right wrist. So it will listen in game if you move it, if you move your right wrist. So now to put the placement, you need to be able to let other people read it, but also should be in your hand. It needs to look quite good in your hand. So you begin with just rotating it a bit, bringing it closer. Now you see this opening here. I'm gonna try to put my board in there. I'll actually make it a little smaller, my board, because it's rather big right now. Yeah, that should be fine. So you just try to get it in a good position. Don't worry about the thumb, because you will be able to move the thumb. So this should be fine. Now we go over to the animation bit. So in your hierarchy, press the cube and press this button here to not view it. Now this is a very important step if you do anything with animation. Be sure to duplicate your model. Your model will break when you use animations. You can't use it anymore. So you need a backup model to put the animations on afterwards. So you need always to have one good model. So you just Ctrl D to duplicate it. You hide the good model because you don't want to break it. Then you go here to animation tab. If you don't have this animation tab, it should be at window, and animation should be in here somewhere. And if the animator, here is animation, you can just click it and you will have it. You create a new animation. This is the name of your animation. I'll just call it board example. And here, this is the animation tab where you will do all the keyframing. You click on add property, body. This goes to your hierarchy of the model itself. So you add property, body. No, sorry, I made a mistake. Body is for the facial expressions. You go to armature. Okay, it's logical, like it goes to your armature. You go to spine, chest, right shoulder, right arm, right elbow, right wrist. And here you have the cube that we made. Expand the cube. And here you have is active. Click on the plus sign. And click here on the box. So this means when we do the animation, the cube, the board, will become active. As you can see here, I maybe made a small mistake, because people will be able to see like you from this side, so they should be able to read it. So I'm gonna just change the material a little bit and make it readable for older people. And there you go. Back to animation. So now, if you do the animation in game with a hand gesture, this signboard will pop up and it will be like on this hand, but as you can see here, the fingers are pretty sloppy and not very they're not holding the board. So let us fix that. You add property and you go to Animator. You should have Animator when you import the model and rig it with the correct bones. Animator should pop up on your model. Here you have a lot of things you can do, like this. The Animator is a really powerful tool. You can do a lot with it. But we want to go down. And here you have, you see left hand index 1 stretched, left hand index 2, left hand little, left hand middle. These are all the fingers you can manipulate. But we are actually the right hand. So here we are, we have the right hand index 1 stretched, and it goes all the way down to right hand thumb 3. Like, you don't need the spreads, so you just take the 1, 2, 3 of each finger, that's like each bone in the finger, and you can manipulate that. So you just go there, click it, and it's on here. You have to redo it every time, like you can't select them all and do it at once. You have to redo it every time and put each finger in. So 3 bones for each finger is like 15 things you need to add. So I'll come back when I add all the things. So here we are. We're back with all the bones of the fingers from the right hand in the animation. Sorry. Here is the now you can manipulate the fingers. So let me show you how that's actually done. So you see here the fingers clip into the board. We don't really want that. So we'll start by just the top one. You need to give in a value. You can give in any value, but the most used values are between 0 and 1. So let's put 1. See the bone moved. The beginning of the finger came up, but for me it's a little too high, I think. So I'll just put 0.8. Let's put there is no real value to this. Like, I can't tell you like you need to use this value, and this value, because the boards will be in different places for everyone. The fingers will be another size for most models, so I can't really give you a guideline. The values you need to use, because it will be different for everyone. But you just want to make sure the fingers are just look natural and don't look forced on the board. I'm just rushing this a little bit, so it could be that the fingers actually look unnatural. But this is just for an example. Like, I just wanted to show you what you can do with this option. I didn't want to perfect it. Like, you don't want this. Whatever I did here, you don't want this. For the thumb, it depends for what you really want to use the thumb for. Like, you can put the thumb up, or just like with your finger on the board. A fun thing that you could do with this board is make the board actually select the board again and bring it closer so the thumb is lying on the board. You could also do that. This finger is actually really annoying me. Which finger is this? It's not it's the middle one, right? Oh, whatever. I don't know what happened to this finger. You also got to remember when you're in the animation, this button will be enabled when you're working on it, and this is the record mode. So everything you do in this will record. So let's say you place the model on another position, it will record that. So you don't want that. So make sure if you adjust something, like let's say you move the board closer, you turn off this button, and when it's moved closer, turn it back on. It will still change, but you don't want the animation itself to actually shove the board closer, because that's just a mistake, and you don't really want that. So now this is for the board. So don't worry if it suddenly disappears. If you go back to your first keyframe where you adjusted all the settings, it will come back. I want to show you now how to actually make it work on your model. These steps are really important. The next like 30 seconds will be really important. So what you do is there will be keyframes placed on the 1 minute mark automatically. So you just click on the very top gray row to select them all, and you hit delete. To make it work, you need to go to your first keyframe. So again, hit the gray, hit the top one. It will be select them all. You do you Control C, and you go one frame further. You can even fill in one if you're not really sure of yourself here. And you do Control V. So it has both the same values, and it doesn't change if you switch between them. That's really needed, because for some reason it doesn't work when there's only one keyframe. It needs to have like a beginning and an end. And if the beginning and the end is like one frame apart and they're the same values, it will actually register. Vrchat will register it and actually perform it. So now to put this on your model. This model is this duplicate will not be used anymore. It is just to make the animation. So now you go back here to your first model, the copy you had to save. You go into your project and go into the VRC file. Go to examples, example as assets. Go to animation, and here you have a file called costume override empty. You do Control D. Don't copy paste. Control D duplicate, because you need it, and you need another one of it. So just Control D it, and now you bring this duplicated file that you just made back to your avatar. So I'm just searching on the side here. I'll drag it to models. Models. Here you go. Costume override. Go to the place where you saved your animations. This is a very important step. It will spaz out if you don't do this, or if you don't want to do this. Go to your animation with the little play button on it, and make sure loop time is off, or it will really fuck up your hand movements, and it will keep repeating over and over, and that's not what you want. So when that's off, the animation is done, like it can be used. So you go to the costume override you just duplicated and put in your project, in your model. Here you can see all the gestures you can edit, like finger points, hand open, rock and roll, emotes even. You take your animation, and I usually put my animations on rock and roll handgun. So you drag it to whatever gesture you want. So now the animation board example will play when I do the rock and roll hand gesture. So this is then like the game knows what to do now, but it isn't on your model yet. So to put it on your model, I basically add animations when I'm completely done with the model. So you will have avatar descriptor to upload it. When here you see costume standing animes and costume sitting animes. This is standing for animation. So if you take the costume override with the animation in you created, you can drag it onto there. And now the game will read every animation that is on this. So if you want, you could fill up all these. I won't suggest it because some of them seems to work weird in some ways. But you can fill these up all you want. I'll quickly show how to make facial expressions. It's really the same process. It's a bit easier than the other one, than the board. So again, you go to animation, click create facial expressions. I'm just gonna call it facial expression animation. You again go to add property. Now instead of armature or animator, you go to body, and you go to skinned mesh renderer. Here you see a lot of stuff that will probably be really overwhelming the first time you see it, but when you become used to it, it will you'll start understanding things. So these are all things you can do with the mouth, the eyebrows, the eyes. Like let's say I want to make my my face with the tongue out and the eyes closed. I would go to skinned mesh renderers and go to all off, because I know that's gonna make my eyes go in the smiling position. See, your model breaks, so be sure to have a copy of it. Oh yeah, if it's in this position, then the model is broken. Like you can't use it anymore at that point. So now she has the eyes closed. Now I go search for licking. Yeah, you need to change the value from 0 to 100 if you want to see the change. So now she has licking. Let's maybe raise the eyebrows a bit. There you go. So this is a licky face you could use. I use this licky face a lot. So again, you go to the process of selecting the keyframes at the end, deleting them, copying the first keyframes, one frame later, place them again, stop animating, deactivate this, go to your first model, search the animation, facial expressions, make sure loop time is off, go to your costume override and put this on something else you want. I would put it on handgun, and this will automatically update. Just a head up, because a lot of people tend to forget about this. When you make an animation that has like facial expressions, like this one, like with the tongue, your hands, you make an animation and you override it on like handgun or something, so that's a hand gesture. So in place of the hand gesture, this animation will play. But here you have the hands. These are the standard position your hands take. Like this finger is fucked up, you don't need to look at this finger. But this is the standard position your hand takes when a model is broken. But it will also override what position your hand takes when you actually perform the animation. So if you want to look at it from a player perspective, like your eyes are on here, so your hands will show this when you do the animation. And if you don't want that, you can just add property animator and go to add all the left hand stretches and all the right hand stretches, and you can both give them a position they should take. Like you can reproduce any hand gesture if you would like. So like let's say you want to replace the peace sign or the thumbs up hand gesture, you can just make a thumbs up gesture if you take all the animator parameters for the hands, and if you put the right number into them, you can make the thumb go all the way up, make this finger go straight, and the rest just crawl into the hand, so you have a handgun. So you could replace it with that, but a lot of people forget about this. And if you have like 3 or 4 animations on your model, and you all keep them like this, eventually you will forget which one you are using at the moment, because you can't tell the difference because the hands will be in the same position. So I suggest you at least edit the hands to look like a little bit better, at least, or just make them recognizable which animation you're doing, so you're not like doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, because that could be very awkward. So now if you upload your model, it will have the animation facial expressions and board example, which is the board and the facial expression we just added. So this is the very basic of animating things on your model. You can do a lot more stuff with it. A lot of stuff you see people do trying to impress others is done with the animation tab. So it's really a lot. It's a really powerful tool. But these are the basics for facial expressions and the signs I make. So I hope this helped. I hope this helped you.